Doris Elizabeth McGowan Angleton lived what many in Houston, Texas would have considered a charmed life. A former beauty queen and popular socialite, Doris was married to Robert Angleton, a millionaire bookmaker who operated a highly profitable illegal sports betting ring. Together, they lived in a luxurious home in an upscale neighborhood and were raising 2 daughters. By all outward appearances, their life was stable and affluent. But behind closed doors, the Angletons' marriage had grown toxic. Robert became increasingly controlling and emotionally abusive. Doris suspected he was involved in criminal activity and began keeping meticulous records of his income, expenses, and associates. She worried about what would happen to their children if anything ever happened to her. In early 1997, Doris hired a divorce attorney and began quietly planning her separation from Robert. She also shared her concerns with close friends, expressing fear that her husband would never let her leave with their daughters. Despite the looming threat, Doris believed that documenting his finances and seeking legal custody would protect her. On the evening of April 16, 1997, Doris was found shot to death in her home. She had been shot multiple times in her bedroom. There were no signs of forced entry, and the house had not been ransacked. The front door had been unlocked. The family's daughters were away visiting relatives at the time. Investigators quickly focused on Robert Angleton. He had an airtight alibi, claiming he had taken his daughters to a ball game and could not have committed the murder. Police initially could not find any forensic evidence linking him to the crime scene. But as detectives examined Doris's legal steps toward divorce and custody, the case took a dramatic turn. Several weeks after the murder, police received a shocking tip from Robert's brother, Roger Angleton. Roger had been arrested in Las Vegas on unrelated charges. While in custody, he attempted suicide and left behind a detailed suicide note and confession. The confession described how Robert had asked Roger to carry out the murder to avoid a costly divorce and potential exposure of his illegal business. Roger had hidden in the house and waited for Doris to return home. He then shot her multiple times and fled the scene. After reading the confession, police charged Robert with capital murder. The note was detailed and included locations, amounts of money exchanged, and even the type of gun used. However, a major problem arose during the pretrial hearings. Roger Angleton had taken his own life in jail before he could testify, and the court ruled that his written confession was inadmissible as evidence because it could not be cross-examined. Without Roger's live testimony, the prosecution's case weakened. Though investigators found cash in Roger's possession and traced it to Robert, the jury was not presented with a suicide letter. At trial in 1998, Robert Angleton was acquitted of all charges. Though he was cleared in the Texas courts, federal authorities later pursued a separate case against him. In 2003, while facing federal charges related to murder for hire and conspiracy, Robert Angleton fled the country. He traveled to the Netherlands, where he was arrested in Amsterdam using a forged passport. The United States sought his extradition, but Dutch courts refused to send him back on murder-related charges due to his earlier acquittal in Texas, which constituted double jeopardy. However, the Dutch agreed to extradite him on the lesser passport fraud and flight charges. In 2004, Robert was returned to the United States and sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for passport fraud and fleeing to avoid prosecution. He served his time and was released in 2012. As of now, Robert Angleton is a free man. Though he was tried and acquitted of his wife's murder and cannot be retried for it under U.S. law, many still believe he orchestrated the crime. The murder of Doris Angleton remains officially unsolved, but her brother-in-law Roger's suicide confession continues to cast a long shadow over her husband.